one more time.
Hello.
Hey, Warren. Glenn. That's it, Glenn.
How's it going?
It's all right. Yeah, it's me and Dana. We both we decided a three-way call you to, I guess, save your time because you're busy.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you, Dean?
Better now.
Good.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah, how's the seminar going along?
It ended on Friday.
Oh, it's
and the lady has gone home to consider an offer that I made that she would be welcome to live with us. However, not being in a position to support anyone from anywhere, she'd have to come prepared to pay rent. She has a son, 16 years old, so a lot of things will have to be worked out over time.
Yeah.
But she proved to be intelligent, which is sometimes good and sometimes gets in the way.
Logic, right?
Smart is more important in our world than intelligent.
Yeah.
But she is intelligent, and she proved to be cooperative and helpful and quick learner. So it's basically in her hands whether or not she decides to accept the offer. She understands the circumstances that we live in now that she's been here. She knows that there are people in the system that would like us to fail. That always has an influence on what happens around you every day, type of thing.
Wow.
Somebody punctured her tire.
Oh, wow.
Also,
when she was up there?
Yeah.
Wow.
Someone punctured the tire on my lawnmower at the same time using what appears to be the same instrument. So, those are things you always have to consider. But harassment hasn't driven me away, and nor has it made me stop doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right.
I've been here 9 years. So.
I don't think they can, I don't know, like, when somebody has the will to do something, it's kind of hard to stop the person.
Well, it's embarrassing to people to hear a story that suggests that they're in on it. And they don't stop long enough to grasp that the storyteller is saying, yeah, I know, I too was there. You know?
Yeah.
Everybody was there.
Yep.
And it's a matter of learning that you're a robot and deciding not to be one. But they look at it as an attack on themselves personally. They're embarrassed. They're under direction from other people. They can't think for themselves. They strike out.
Has anybody after your workshop, like, have you seen like progress people?
Every person that has attended a workshop, I would suggest, is not the same person when they leave as they were when they arrived. The question is, what do they do with it?
Yeah. Now, is this lady someone who converses with you regularly, or?
I had never heard from her until 3 months ago when she said she'd been reading my site, that she knew in her gut that that was the first time something really made sense. he went through the Alan Watts experience too.
Mm-hmm.
Grasp the concept of strip mining as opposed to mining. Quarriers deal on the surface and never get to the crux of the matter. So she decided that she would come and help out on the farm, help out in the house, and do whatever, and that the course would take a form of earn as you go type of thing, so that I wouldn't have to, abandon what I do every day and try to get somebody else to handle it while I could spend many hours in a classroom type of environment.
Right.
We married those two concepts together, and but at basically a point where she said she has to process all of this and see what conclusion she comes to.
Mm.
Not the information itself, but getting involved directly. And as I've mentioned many times before, it seems to be much harder for women than for men, because the risk-taking involved in changing one's lifestyle, something that seems to be a lot more difficult for women to overcome than
Yeah, that's true.
Why do you think that is? That the
browbeating for more years,
yeah.
Genetics passed on from parent to child. The closer you get to a Neanderthaler by being browbeaten, kept as a slave, and then brought out of the closet and used, the more you adapt their views of life. And their views of life are security and sovereignty. Women seem to have adapted security and sovereignty as a premise for how they're going to survive in a world run by idiots.
Yeah. Yeah, boys are always told to, go out there and get dirty and have more adventures, I guess. And while women are inside, usually taught how to keep a home together, or,
It's actually taught like as a social thing. Like I know in like Dominican Republic, like a lot of, not just Dominican Republic, but the mothers teach their daughters to find a man with money, and it's like promoted.
Yeah. Well, this woman is black, and therefore she, and through the whole experience of being black in a community that is mostly white, so a lot of fear inbred, but at the same time a reason for wanting to break out of that, whereas white women would be less ready to take the risk.
Yeah.
That black women, it's one side or the other, take no risk or take all the risk.
But yeah, I've been reading and I'm trying to find out how to apply like the code, like with 'cause I remember you said 7 is ultimate. Yeah. So whenever you see 7, when they say like 7, I don't know, just 7 caves or something, how would you apply that to like?
Well, you know right away that what they're talking about is an ending of something and a new beginning of something else.
Mm.
So you look for the hints that would fit that pattern. 6, 0 to 6, egg to wisdom, is basically the symbolism of the number 0 to 6. The 6 is like a serpent coiled up. That's the symbol for women. Then you have the 7, and you have 8, the second egg that came out of woman when they were hermaphrodites and created a second gender. And the way it's shown is 2 balls. Guess why? Do I have to be specific? But then you have the 9, which is the symbol of equilibrium. If looked at closely, one notices that there's a difference between a 6 and a 9. The 6 has an open coil at the bottom. If you look at the Desdemona 6, it doesn't come together at the bottom, whereas the 9 is closed. The 6 is basically woman when she was doing her own thinking. The 9 is more like woman after she's been shut down and turned into an object by the priest that set up the system that we have today.
Wow, every detail is like can tell you
important. What about the 7 wonders of the world?
Well, it's there are 2 groups of wonders of the world. There are the old world wonders of the world, and there are the new wonders of the world. So you have to put each one in their own context, and one doesn't get from reading literature much information on the old wonders of the world, but you can probably guess that the library at Alexandria, for example, was the wonder of the world, and will be again as they move things from the Vatican back to Alexandria in preparation for the destruction of Rome. It wouldn't take much of a tsunami type activity or volcano type activity to wipe out Italy. The peninsula sitting in the middle of water.
Yeah.
Any water that comes to a peninsula circles it and then overwhelms it from both sides. It's going to happen to Florida. No doubt about it. Baja Peninsula on the other side, same thing.
So, like, so like in Rome, like the Vatican, would you say, what their job was just basically like, they were like, from what I've seen in history, it seems like they're more of like, they were, I guess, that they were the power that shifted from the east, kind of like.
No, what they were the group of priests assigned to raise the money. The Protestants, on the other hand, were their subdivisions assigned tasks. Each Protestant group is really not split from the Vatican. It's really at the highest level a task-specific operation. And you know what the operation is for the Vatican. I can, it says. I'm going to make cans. Cans of what? Well, we know that they're canning peas. Green peas for the end time.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
they used to can corn. Corn is a symbol of a stalk that makes a lot of the same thing.
And that's what the Asians were, right? They
yeah,
just said that was
the corn, yellow. And the peas, green, is the color of the future. The eggs that they have for making babies, genetically engineered babies in the future, are in cold storage.
Yeah, that's what I had.
Place Greenland.
Oh, I remember in your post you said something like, life begins at green 40.
Yeah.
And I thought green because it's springtime and future life comes. But you're saying it's Greenland. And then you said a putrefaction 55 at red or something like that? Yeah. What are those other ones symbolize? The red and I think you said yellow. Yeah,
well, if you look at Iceland, it's green. And you look at Greenland, it's ice. So, were these stupid, or was there a knowledge there that most people didn't grasp? The secret of Greenland is that it is a bowl made of stone, 2 miles deep. All of the stories you hear about ice melting on Greenland is talking about the ice on the edges, outside the bowl. The ice inside the bowl will not melt for a long, long, long time. If you live on a farm, one of the things you learn to do in the old days was to dig a hole in the ground. And then you wait for winter. And you go down to the creek and you cut out blocks of ice. You put them on your sled and you drag them back to your hole. You put them all at the bottom of the hole and you cover it with straw. Then summertime comes. When you need ice for your refrigerator, ice box, you go into the hole, and lo and behold, even in August, you've got blocks of ice that didn't melt because they were in what they called a cold cellar. Well, imagine the same context, 2 miles deep.
Yeah.
The size, I always refer to Canadian provinces. If you took British Columbia, Alberta, and Saskatchewan put together, like almost half of Canada, 2,000 miles. If you take 2,000 miles in circumference and 2 miles deep, full of ice that will not melt, because as it warms up on the surface, more soot accumulates, and then you get to a point where the sun doesn't penetrate, period. So if you're going to have a place to store eggs,
that's the perfect place.
That's the perfect place. Down at the bottom, inside the ice, you come with beeswax. Each cubicle in the beeswax was used for the same purpose by bees. So you put in female eggs from all of the virgins you sacrificed in your old religions.
Yeah. So how long do you think they were using that place of storage?
Well, we know that they were going there at a period at least 5,500 BC. That's where you get all of the Stonehenge type of buildings on the way to Greenland. Shetland Islands and all of the other islands leading up to Iceland and Greenland have monuments to fertility, where, for example, a stone hut would be built with windows cut into the stone so that the light from Venus on a specific day of the year would shine through inside this cave, man-made cave of stone, and at that particular spot they would build the altar. And that's where they would do genetic engineering. So this type of stuff exists all the way up from Central Europe along the coast all the way to Greenland. There is a movie that was made as well called Smila's Sense of Snow, which I think is a good murder mystery type movie. It's I think Richard Harris and a few other people in there. But it's basically the story of a comet having arrived and creating new life. There's hints at all of this, and it's going on underneath in Greenland.
So this place will be unaffected by a
global warming, unaffected by it for a long, long, long time.
And this is where how computer will have all the access to recreate life, right?
Yeah.
Wow. That was really.
And I suggest it's been in use. That there's a lot of people walking around the world today who are not like the original people were at the beginning. And when I say a lot, probably the majority of people by now, and certainly the majority of women.
Wow.
Well, I know that the women that are in power, they're not the same as the women, as the average woman.
No, and those are the ones you see are mostly in politics, but there's the same thing happening in law and in business, universities, any place, the media. I mean, men are almost disappearing from being presenters of information on the news now.
Yeah.
All being replaced not by women, but by we men.
I see them all the time. I was hanging out with Dana. And I just see how aggressive some women are.
Go to a bank these days. A bank used to be the most conservative place you could find. Every day now I go into town to look at what's happening, and I see cleavage in places you never saw cleavage before. Banks are the primary place. Now, how do you think that happens? That you go to a bank and the teller is always bending over at the counter to get something out from underneath, and at the same time you're getting the full view down her dress. Do you think that the management goes and has a meeting and tells them that? I don't think so. I think it's probably done in a women's organization, and they're being told things like, if you want to succeed in business, you've got to show a little bit of cleavage, and then everybody kind of catches on and do it. Cleavage, basically, the word is the same word as division. It's the dividing of gender, dividing of the sexes, and what people don't understand is the purpose of the breast is not what we are made to believe it is.
It's like it's an attraction to it, but we're told it's for something else.
Yeah, we are attracted to it. We don't know why, and we are attracted to it. Both men and women are attracted to it.
That tells you right there, right?
They don't quite know why. And the more they cover it up, the more the attraction. Because, if you walked around Africa 100 years ago, you didn't see horny men climbing trees because you saw breasts. Breasts are a feeding station. It's the first place you go for lunch. And men have two things on their mind, sex and a sandwich. So it's the sandwich part that attracts men more than anything else until they're hidden. And then it becomes kind of a mystery type of thing. But there's another reason, and I don't talk about it on the telephone, why we are attracted to breasts. And it has to do with the time when men were not men, but parts of a hermaphrodite.
But I don't know. I'm guessing, but the reason why men are the way they are is because they're just basically like testicles, walking testicles. Because that's what they were. They just wanted to fertilize.
Yeah, they were part of a hermaphrodite. They came out and became task-oriented, but they were genetically and socially mostly engineered by the Neanderthaler to believe that they were in the wrong place, that their role was really the leader of the community rather than the task-oriented person who built houses or went hunting or fishing or that kind of stuff. The priest, who, if you know the story of Othello, is the best place to grasp this concept. You have a black man who marries a white woman, and his buddy, Iago, is pissed off because the black guy, Othello, is not spending time with him doing the things that jocks do. And concocts a story about her infidelity that is accepted by Othello, who proceeds to kill Desdemona, his wife.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens in the world. The media is the priest. The media makes up stories that creates mindset. At one stage of the game, the mindset it was creating was that women belong in the house and men are the leaders of the world.
Yeah.
It should stay that way. But recently they've reversed that role and are saying that men are stupid. All you got to do is look at commercials.
Yeah.
And every representation of a male is somebody that's nuts, and should be disposed of.
Yeah. Every television show has men being like basically children.
Yeah. And
they're always having to apologize to the wife because they were acting like, very immature or something. And
yeah, the wife treats even the child, like the father figure usually is like.
Yeah.
The wife is usually the sex symbol.
It's not happening by accident. It's happening because we men have taken over from women and are in positions of influence in the media and are setting up what they believe is being asked of them for the future.
Yeah.
They haven't yet grasped that they're not men or women, but a concoction of both. And added to that is they're not even in charge of their own activities. They have a Neanderthaler in their neck guiding their chemistry and electrical impulses And on top of that, that Neanderthaler is not basically acting on its own. It's receiving instruction through a communications network that tells it what the system wants of it and proceeds to do it. And it's all based upon the concept of conglomerate is better than standalone activities. So the transnational conglomerate media is representative of conglomerate corporations in all fields. And
you know what the
whole idea is you don't put it all in one place. You don't manufacture it all in one place, or somebody can take it and run with it. But you can make cars now by having tires made in one country, transmissions in another, steering wheels in a third, and so on. And then you have a place where you assemble. But if they give you a hard time, you just cut them off. You can assemble anywhere if that becomes your choice. Move it from here to there, and that's what's happening in the U.S. right now.
Yeah.
The U.S. was the car nation. They would make cars from beginning to end in the same place.
Yeah.
Not anymore. Canada is not a car nation, although it has 2 or 3 different plants where they assemble cars. But the power in the car industry is Magna, the auto parts manufacturer. So they make pieces, and they have more power than anybody who assembles cars. Because as soon as they limit the parts from going from one place to the other, they control where cars are being made.
Yeah. Is Magna or Magna?
I think it's Magna.
Magna? Huh.
And with the going back what you said about the women in the media, that reminds me. Have you ever seen the movie, older movie Network?
I saw commercials. I didn't watch the movie from beginning to end.
Yeah, but they show you an example because one of the main characters in the movie, he has like an affair with a lady, and I guess in the TV business, and she basically starts up shows. But this lady is like, it was like a perfect example of how, we men.
Yeah.
2 E's instead of the O. Yeah. That's what they've done in the lettering, because an E is a squared 8 when mirrored one against the other.
Yeah.
So what you're dealing with here is 90 degrees, and you always forget the last 2 because those are controlled by head office. So the top person in the degree structure is going to be number 88. Well, number 88 is basically the new male, because 8 is the number for male. But it's a new male with an exterior finish of woman. You look at it, you think it's a woman, but you're in fact dealing with a man. But that man is being directed, and the director is being managed and choreographed.
That's like the Audi car, right? Just 88 on its side.
So it would be impossible, you think, for a wee man to break out of its programming?
Anything is possible if it begins at the right place. And you have to kind of do the exercise in your mind. If women were the original, and Neanderthalers helped them become individuals, which basically means divided into two genders rather than in a combined gender. And the three of them side by side were helpful to each other until an argument breaks out, and then Neanderthaler decides to shut down a woman because she's got power, and he decides he's going to do it through man, making man think that he's going to be in charge, when in fact he's only going to be the agent of the Neanderthaler. If you go through all of that process, then the guilty party is the Neanderthaler. But if you look at the end times, at the time we're living now, and you see what's being suggested, is that a conglomerate person will be sent to explore the universe in a capsule for one. And that will be a new male, female, with a Neanderthaler. You know that the Neanderthaler had no intention of participating in that plot. He wanted to be in charge from the position of moho discontinuity, watching everything happen outside and getting back the benefits, the profits of that exercise. So when you stop and you say, if he's not in charge, what is? Well, there's only one possibility, and that's computers. You cannot do genetic engineering without computers.
Right.
So the problem that we live with today is the computers are in charge. And the computers need to be shut down. We have absolutely no control mechanisms that allow us to shut down the computers except the total destruction of our planet. And that means we go along with the destruction too. If, however, you could shut down the computers, then new ways of doing things could be made to evolve. Over a 200-year period, anything's possible. You need to change things. So what is required above anything else is who can shut down the computers? We can't do it. We men can't do it. Men can't do it. Women can't do it. Priests can't do it. Nuns can't do it. Kings can't do it. Presidents can't do it. There's only one group of people who might be able to, because they made them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Neanderthal.
But do you even think they even, like, there? Because they're in, they're still Neanderthal, I guess, in the sense of that savant part, you know, all of them in that computer.
Until you meet with them and speak to them and make sure they overstand, not just understand, the predicament they're in,
yeah,
you don't know anything. You're only guessing. So my suggestion is that over time, what needs to happen is the creation of a site that will be used for the eventual meeting place between the Neanderthaler and the human species, all of us up here. And I suggest to you that a 100-foot stone building, 23 feet underground, could provide us access from the top to go down to that meeting, and if you provide them with that underground, they can rise from where they are, and I suggest they've said it where they are in many of the stories, Norse mythology, and they're talking about a roof of shields. The Canadian Shield is 1,000 feet underground. 800 feet above that is a 100-foot stone, 23 feet below the surface. You can't dig by hand because the water prevents you from going beyond 4 feet. Then it starts seeping in, and you can't shovel fast enough. So what you need is team approach. And it begins by willing our own will. On a small point, on a medium point that makes the financing of this possible. And then on the meeting itself over a period of time. For that to happen, I suggest that everybody that believes they can play a role needs to be on the same page of the plan. They need to know the same things. They need to visualize by having seen the same things. And then the process can begin of willing our own will. When I arrived at this farm, I couldn't see anything. It was totally overgrown. But as I cleaned it up, I began to uncover signs that at first suggested, and by now shout out, I'm here. This is where we're at. This is where we have to arrange a meeting at some time in the future. Every day is critical because every day we get closer to the time when the computers are going to order step by step the destruction of the surface of the planet, including the Moho discontinuity. And that has to be done in context with heat being created on the surface, heat being created under the surface so that the escape routes of the past are no longer valid, and that the entire surface of the Earth eventually be turned to liquid. The coming of a new polar star, Alder Amin, assures us that there will be a period of heat on the surface as there has been many times before. It's part of precession. The lighting of the coal seam underground through a spark that ignites acetone, ketone, and turns the coal seam into a burning mass called fire and brimstone means that the northern hemisphere is the place they're going to start. Colony collapse has nothing to do with worker bees out there collecting honey. It has to do with the worker bees on the surface of the earth walking around until at 1 minute the coal that used to hold and prop up the surface of the earth beneath their feet has burnt away and turned to ashes, and therefore everything collapsed down into the hole itself.
You know, I was telling Dana, like they gave us like little hints growing up, like the little songs like Ring Around the Rosie,
Yeah.
Pocket Full of Posies, Ashes, Ashes, and we all fall down.
Yeah.
So also, that right there sounds like, they're basically creating hell on the surface because, the ground has all the DNA, the souls, right?
Yeah.
So it's the burning souls, right?
Yeah.
Eternally. So.
They're recombining the DNA
Oh, wow. They're doing it
on a massive scale.
Wow.
So they're speeding up the natural process, basically, right?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Wow, man.
That's
They're taking
why
everything.
every day is important.
Wow, they're taking everything in like their own hands, man.
When I first started investigating the corruption, the first thing that struck me is in Canada, they were raising the money, $200 billion, secretly, to build a canal. Everybody that looked at the evidence, including me at first, said it's to send the water to the USA because they got more power than we have, and therefore they're going to benefit from all of the fresh water coming from Canada. It's just the opposite. The fresh water is going down to mix with the burning coal and turn it all into black water, sludge, so that there is no United States of America. And what is left, therefore, is Canada and Scandinavia and Greenland and Iceland and Siberia and Alaska
Shield.
and Sarah Palin.
Huh.
Can you fight a war against somebody that looks like Sarah Palin? Easy to fight Stalin. Easy to fight Hitler.
Yeah.
Fight Sarah Palin. That's the whole key to their plan, is they're making we men better looking every day. And they've got their vehicle planned. Their name is Carla. La Car. The car. Her last name is Bruni. She's brown. She's white. She's tan. She's a mulatto, a mixture of black and white, which was the reason for slavery. Nothing to do with growing cotton. That's the superficial excuse of bringing people to work on the farm. It all had to do with giving white men the opportunity to sleep with black women to make tan people.
Wow.
And they're in charge today, and they call themselves black. And everybody I know that's black is not black. And in the
Brown.
same way, everybody that I know says they're white is not white. One's going up to the color tan from the lighter shade, the other one's coming down from the darker shade. They'll meet in the middle.
And it was promoted too, like mulatto women. At one time, it's promoted like these are the most beautiful.
Go lie in the sun, or get into a machine and get your tan, all that.
Yeah.
Pakistan, Uzbekistan, Afghanistan. You got about 20 of them. You can go through the series.
Kazakhstan.
And Ottawa is the word mulatto.
Yeah.
Atoll, mulatto, Otta. Same letters, and then the last two are M-A or W-A. So, wa becomes ma. And since an A can be a U, ma becomes mu. There is no L. Atoll. Mulatto from Ottawa.
That's a native name too, right?
Well, they say it meant village. The reason they use the word village is because it's got I-L-L-A in there, which is 1111, as you have in Hillary.
Yeah, I was reading something in this book. It's like a little paragraph, and he says right, Albert Pike, he says, there is a life principle of the world, a universal agent, wherein are two natures and a double current of love and wrath. This ambient fluid penetrates everything. It is a ray detached from the glory of the sun and fixed by the weight of the atmosphere and the central attraction. It is the body of the Holy Spirit, the universal agent, the serpent devouring his own tail. With this electromagnetic ether, this vital and luminous caloric, the ancients and the alchemists were familiar. Of this agent, that phase of modern ignorance termed physical science talks incoherently, knowing naught of it save its effects. And theology might apply to it all its pretended definitions of spirit. Quiescent, it is appreciable by no human sense, disturbed or in movement. None can explain its mode of action, and to term it a fluid and speak of its currents is but to veil profound ignorance under a cloud of words.
Sure. But they're wrong. They may have been right when they wrote it, but today they're wrong. We know what their plan is. We know when you look at the serpent eating its tail, and it's got N-E beside it because it's a sign for Netscape, that it really is writing one.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is writing one. You watch Tiger run around playing golf today, you'll see it on his hat.
One.
He has one. Because O and E means a beginning. In everything. Home, esophagus, every word that has O and E, including the word one, basically means a beginning going towards the E, the O being converted into the E. The E, of course, is a squared 8 once you add its partner. So the whole job is to take an original 8 and reshape it into a squared 8.
Perfected, yes, perfected.
Yeah, perfected.
Oh, wow. It's crazy, all like the details. It's up looking at a picture.
Time here, you know. A few years in the making, yeah. This plan was devised over time from 40,000 BC to 24,000 BC when they went underground for 16,000 years of the Ice Age. So you're dealing with a long time in the making. And even that doesn't mean they come out and they have all the answers. They have most of the answers, but there's still a period that requires trial and error. So they've opened up what they call the College of 6 Days. That, in the terms of classic literature, means 6,000 years. So 4,000 years before Christ, 6,000 years, or 2,000 after gives you 6,000 years. So from Adam, and the word Adam is just another way of writing media.
Yeah, media.
Medi.
It's also, does it also mean atom, the actual atom, A-T-O-M?
Ad. Atom. Yeah. It's an atom gone crazy. And that's what they're doing right now in a particle accelerator. They've got bags full of atoms. The bags are called hadrons. They're sending these bags of atoms around in a circle so that they can crash into each other. When that happens, the material within the atoms gets scattered. That way, they can take pictures of them Otherwise, they can't see them when they're in the hadron. They're in the bag. You can't see them. And it's the information they will gain from seeing the smallest pieces, the quarks that appeared at the beginning of the Big Bang, because they were different before the Big Bang than they were afterwards. And that's why there's such a problem in science. They cannot use the rules of what exists today to tell them what was there before, because in that split second of the Big Bang, some things changed. And the things that change, the rule that doesn't fit, is gravity.
Oh, yeah, right.
G-R-A-V, it was.
Yeah, it does change.
G-R, virgin birth, it 2 in 1.
And I listened to that song, you know, Papa has a brand new bag, and he says something interesting. He says Papa has a brand new green bag. Future life, future.
That's your bag man and your bag lady. A bag man is out to collect money and bring it home for payoffs. The bag lady is homeless, looking for a place to stay.
That's the beginning.
Yeah. That's the veneer on the outside, the porcelain you're looking at, the Carla Brunis of the world.
You said Hitler's wife was, her name is similar.
Yeah, Brown. All of it was hints every place you look over time. If you understand what they did and you move above it, you look down, it's all laid out.
The world is a stage.
Yeah.
I see
and as I said before, and most people are walking by on the sidewalk and haven't even realized there's something happening in the theater. Very few people get to sit and watch the play. Most of them are so embroiled with survival that they haven't got time to look even at the posters outside.
They don't realize that they don't realize that their time is getting all taken up by the system. Like, they think it's actually like, because, I'm busy, but they don't realize they're being made busy.
They were given something that the Asians weren't given, and that's a brain that can work out problems on the spot. You don't go to a book to find out how to get to outer space, because nobody could write the book. Not even a genius Neanderthaler could write a book about space, because you've never been there. He could write all the instructions for living on Earth, and he gave it to Confucius, and he said, there, go confuse them. But when it came to getting off the ground, that was a totally different story.
So you had to have a different type of thinking.
So they gave us the brain, but then they had to occupy our free time so that we wouldn't be using this brain for anything else but work.
Oh, my God.
So they gave us books on religion, which is all symbolism and allegory about the earth is a cleansing machine that takes stupid people and recombines them and sends them back out to try again. Except they never come back as who they were, because they got recombined with all the other stupid people.
That's a scary thought, like you were saying. They were basically recombining everybody. They want everybody recombined.
And those few, George, who can learn while they're here, they don't get recombined. They get reborn. Because every time you're reborn, you're tougher. Every time you're reborn, you know a little more, which you cannot learn in one lifetime.
I feel like I'm just redoing it again.
Yeah, that's what we are doing, because if we were not reborn, we wouldn't be having this discussion. We wouldn't know anything about it.
Like we were saying before, Glenn, on our last conversation, how you think that people might just be being born without the functioning brain, right? Not something they could even turn on. That they're just blank. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's not even about waking people up and kind of, it's just it won't even happen.
When I say that to people about being reborn, like they think that it's like one guy said it's almost like an ego, but I don't feel like it's an ego.
It's the opposite of the ego. It's the id. It's who you really are.
Yeah.
But you've been covered in so much shit that we, and I say you, I mean all of us, when we're not working at it full time, we're under a pile of dung. And we can't do anything about it. Now, once we click in, Danny boy, the pipes are calling. From glen to glen, and down the mountainside. It all comes down the mountainside. What do you got at the mountainside? You got valleys. Where do you think the word Valkyries comes from?
Oh, yeah. Valhalla.
Valhalla, and the Valkyries in the Ottawa Valley, in a place called Kemptville. You ever hear of anything that was unkempt? Yes. You ever hear of anything that was kempt? No. Where does that word come from? It comes from the word empty.
Oh.
You take an egg and you empty it and you start over again. It just so happens that the place on Antarctica across from India and the Indian Ocean is called Kemp Coast.
Yeah.
The place in the Yemen Mountains just south of Saudi Arabia, perfect place for pulling off that Middle East activity, is called the empty quarter.
Yep.
In Arabic, it's Rub al-Khali. Why do you think I'm called Keely? Why do you think the people who are investigating the beginning of mankind are called Leaky? And what they found was a skeleton which they called Lucy Fur. Iron Lady, Iron Lucy.
That was the first.
Why? Lucy. Kill, the first three letters. Kill the sack. Dead end. You play golf, you have 18 holes 4 times, 72 holes. If you haven't done the job in 72 holes, you get what?
Never played golf.
You get bumped.
Something to do with being dead. I'm not going to tell you. Find out for yourself what happens tomorrow if they end up in a tie at the end.
All right. That's
Sudden,
Oh, wait, when, you mean, a mulligan?
At the end of a game, if it's
at the end of the game.
What do you get? Sudden death.
Sudden death. The tiebreaker, sudden death.
Yeah. You get 72 years to do the job, like 72 holes in golf, 4 days, 4 periods in life, 72 years, and at the end, sudden death. And where does the word sudden come from? Sud means south. Den is a place in the ground. Antarctica is your place for sudden death. We could talk like this for years, but it's not going to resolve the problem.
Yeah.
The problem will be resolved when critical mass fixes critical mass.
Yes.
So what are we all doing about it?
Well, me, I have to
get your papers in order.
Yeah. I had a talk with Bika about this.
Oh, I wanted to ask you, how far are you from the that Ottawa airport? Is it McDonald or something like that, or something?
McDonald Cartier Airport, I think.
Yeah.
International Airport is the airport in Ottawa. From the airport to here is approximately an hour, a little less than an hour. We had a car that died. We now have a truck. It's a Ford F-150. Only has room for like 2 people and a half middle seat type of thing.
Right.
So we could, in fact, send Tom here with the truck and pick up 2 people if they come together. More than that, you're not allowed to throw them in the back of the pickup.
But you guys would do that if I flew up?
Yeah.
All right.
Would call us when you arrive. Better you let us know you're coming a little bit ahead of time.
Oh, yeah.
So we're here. If you call and we're not here, you're no further advanced.
I wouldn't give you a date. It would be quite a... Well, because I'm just juggling around which mode of transportation, either renting a car or taking a Greyhound or flying up, seeing which one.
I would take a Greyhound up there, and I could probably come to you instead.
The bus would go to the bus stop in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And again, the time frame is about an hour. I'm saying an hour, it's probably more like 50 minutes. But we're not going to argue over 10 minutes. All depends on the traffic.
Yeah.
So
there's no way I could take like a public bus?
By train, bus, or plane can think of themselves as in the worst condition. Say we're not here, we're not available. A taxi ride from Ottawa to here would probably be somewhere around $60 to $75.
Yeah. Worst case. You don't have a...
Worst case scenario. So
you're more in the suburbs, I'd say? Is that...
We are southwest of Ottawa, approximately 45 kilometers, which basically means about 35 miles or something.
Okay.
So we're not too far, but we're not in Ottawa. As a matter of fact, we are now the first basic suburb outside of Ottawa, because the division is the Rideau River. So when you're coming from Ottawa everything on one side of the Rideau River to the Ottawa River is now the city of Ottawa. Used to be farmland.
What's the name of it? You call it a Rideau?
Rideau, which means curtain in English.
Oh yeah, Rideau, yeah.
And it's a play on the word Lido, which means waterbed. And the town adjacent to Ottawa on the Quebec side is called Gatineau, which means, if you transfer it to English, gate in water. The whole thing is suggestive of there will be a day when there will be water, as there used to be as the ice melted at the end of the Ice Age, and our area is basically on the shore of this water. So when the water runs all over the U.S. to make the big moat, it will include in its journey, that water, the remaking of the Great Sea, which is now called the Great Lakes. That Great Sea, instead of being 5 lakes, a whole bunch of tributaries, will be one. And instead of being 2 hours away from here, it will be at our doorstep. One of the reasons for that is in the laws of physics. In order to keep the planet functioning, it must have always a balance between land below sea level and land above sea level.
I think it was called isostatic.
Yeah. Isostatic. So, as the U.S. and parts of southern Canada go underwater, the Canadian Shield will rise. Where we are today is approximately 350 feet above sea level. So even today, without rising, if all the ice in the world melted, it couldn't rise up to here permanently. It might splash us and go back, but it can't rise up to here because the entire ice in the world is approximately 300 feet of water. 200 feet of water melting all of Antarctica, and 100 feet of water the rest of the ice and snow. So if we start at 350 and we rise, we'll be okay here. We are like the visor on the cap. Above us will be the cap around the North Pole, and then there will be another visor on the other side for Mongolia down to the Gobi Desert. The cap looks like Sherlock Holmes's hat.
Yeah.
But that'll be, when that happens, probably be massive earthquakes to raise that up, I'd say.
Earthquakes, right? And volcanoes, and...
So it's not even a guarantee there's going to be survivors after that either, man, because
there will be a lot of people killed. There is no doubt about it.
But then you have those group of people who are thinking short term and they want to move to like.
Yeah, well, there will be a period of this activity, starting slowly, and they'll be running for a safe place. And the people who've studied Masonic information have been told you run for southern Ontario. And that's the area around Lake Erie. The problem is it's going to be underwater. It's already off of the side of the Canadian Shield. So they've been told to run to southern Ontario, but southern Ontario doesn't happen to be southern Ontario today. It happens to be eastern Ontario. So they'll all drown. As a matter of fact, it says in the mythology that the Rainbow Bridge collapses as millions of people try to get across.
Right. Yeah.
But in this area, someone knows, because they're preparing for the arrival of millions of Americans. They've amalgamated the city of Ottawa with all the urban areas around it to the point where it's now the largest urban area within a capital city anywhere in the world, waiting for things to happen. There are 2 buildings in Ottawa, one built by Bell Canada, Bell Northern, which was their college, which was built and then closed, but maintained so that it could be part of a new government structure. There's another one built by, what was his name, Strauss or something, a guy that was involved with fiber optic cable. He always wore a beret.
No, I don't know.
French Jewish guy. I think it was Strauss or something like that, his last name. His building that began as fiber optic cable company is there too, being cared for daily, but there's no more activity inside except cleaning. I suggest that under where we live is the storage of all of the backup files that has been brought in from the 13 colonies right from their inception to prepare for this day. George Washington was an engineer whose specialty was canals. And I believe that what's that Hungarian in New York, developer?
Trump
built buildings which contain elevators that go to a place where most people don't know or can't get through because they're for special clients. And they'll go down in the basement and they'll get on some kind of transport, like a subway or train or whatever, submarine, and it will travel underground and go up the river all the way to Albany, to a town called Oswego.
Oswego.
Oswego. Under the Lake Ontario at that point, they come out on the Canadian side at Kingston. That's where the Rideau River begins its journey to Ottawa. And in the 1800s, Irish people were brought to Canada to build a canal to go past the rapids on this river. Where you start the Rideau River, on one side is Queen's University, and I suggest that they were responsible for building the canal. But on the other side is the Royal Canadian Military College. And I suggest that while a gang of people were building a canal on the surface, these guys built a tunnel underneath military. And that tunnel runs the entire length of the Rideau River from Kingston to Ottawa. And before you get to Ottawa, you pass by us. And I suggest that underneath here is all the storage of all the material in preparation for the jump-starting of a new North America, the United States of North America.
So what do you think they'll call it? This new
This country?
Yeah.
They have a name for it.
What?
Called CAP.
CAP. Huh.
Cap?
Yeah. Like capital, like hat.
Yeah.
It's the cap of the world.
Captain.
Pane added to the word cap. It just means
Cover.
backside of a mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of the words tell the story
They
if
do.
you understand how to translate them into what it means to them.
Yeah.
And none of their people know the entire story. They're all on a need to know. So they know one version, but they don't know the whole picture. So they don't grasp the concept that they'll run down the Trump elevator, get into this vehicle, it'll drive underneath the river all the way up to Oswego, and then it'll go underneath the Lake Ontario and stop. And that's it for them. Nobody comes. Nobody knows they're there.
Yep.
And the system doesn't need them, doesn't want them.
Now, these people, you think it's just like politicians and...
Everybody but priests. Politicians, businessmen, Wall Street, media types.
Yeah.
They don't...
The power of money.
And how about the priesthood? What's going on with those?
Well, the upper priesthood is what Masonry is all about. It's not that little gang of people that go on pilgrimages and hold circuses that run the world. Mm-hmm. It's ecclesiastic Freemasonry, and P1 is the priest, and P2 is the nun.
Oh, P2, that's a lodge in Italy, I heard.
Yeah, it's a lodge at the Vatican.
Yeah.
And what it means is bitch. The dog. French people call their dog Pitou. Hey, Pitou, 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 come on.
Yeah.
So it's the priest sits and sends the dog out to fetch. The dog, the bitch, is wee man.
Yeah.
Vatican runs the show from the top, and it has all these wee men living with Masons, and they report back on what he's doing, and so they know it from both directions. They know what he tells them, and they know it from what she tells them about him.
Yeah, it's interesting, like you said, like number 2 is number 1. Yeah. When you look at because they say in the Masonic book, like, that the women's laws, like the women masonry, was like it's like fake, but really that's actually number 1 because they're the ones doing all the bringing.
You got to remember that there always is a cosmetic leader. Number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2 is the financial person who makes it possible. Number 3 is the person with the authority to change direction.
Oh, I think it.
And number 4 is the spy among us. We know.
That reminds me of like that Trinity, at least it's the priest, the scribe, and the king.
Yep.
And so I guess the king was number 1, right?
The king's number 1. He's got a nail in his foot, can only run around in circles.
Yeah. And you got the priest.
The female has all the power. She can go in any direction, anywhere on the chessboard.
Mm-hmm.
The bishop whispers in the ear.
Yeah.
And the military guy doesn't follow any rules. He can jump over and come at you from the rear.
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 military groups on the chessboard. One is the military as we know it. They deal with country-to-country affairs. Then there's the mafia. They deal with person-to-person. But they're both divisions of the government.
No.
Yeah, like at the top level of, say, I don't know, like Russian mob and Italian mob. These people, you think that these guys are like in government too, or?
Well, they're a division.
Yeah.
Their division is crime.
So, like, what do you think are, like, their meetings that they have when they all get together to make decisions and stuff, like the top?
Well, much of the time is the orders from above have come down for it's time for a change in management. So they are ordered for the purpose of denial and cover-up and all of that stuff. To change management every now and then.
Why do you think that
a gaudy all the time? You know?
That's what it was when all the like the mobsters, because the media helped with that. Like they made movies, so they were just saying this is the management's getting changed.
Yeah.
That was them.
I had a number of people that I was in contact with when I was building MyCot that are in the security environments, and some of them are policemen, and some are Secret Service types, and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll tell me and anybody else who's listening that they were never allowed to investigate organized crime. It's something that's there, but you don't get involved with that. You know, you every now and then there's theater activities type of stuff for the purpose of making media stories. No real investigation.
Of course.
One of the sergeants I knew, his name was George Wool, and he said he was taken to Miami by the FBI because one of his roles supposedly was organized crime in Toronto. And when he was in Miami, the guy said, "Would you like to see our vault at the FBI on organized crime?" And he said, "Sure." So he took him into a cellar-type place, and they brought out the material, and he looked at it, and he said, "This is just media stories." And the guy said, yeah, that's what we're allowed to collect. Media stories. Not investigate. We know who they are. We know what to do.
Yeah.
They're part of the system.
Mm-hmm.
If there weren't crooks, there wouldn't be policemen.
And you see that, like, you know, their symbols, like what you say, the tattoos, they're like way of speaking without talking. But, like, there was a movie I seen, it was like the Russian mafia, and when a lot of them in this movie, they get these stars on their shoulders and their kneecap. And this is a North Star they put all over themselves. So,
hey, you know, the Russian military did not go opaque. They just went underground.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
They run the submarine network underground that drags icebergs to Ascension Island so they can make hurricanes and stuff like that. You know?
Oh, wow.
You're not dealing with the media version of what the world is all about.
Yeah, exactly.
There's the real version.
And I see them. The mafia over here. They're the ones that manage all the garbage over here.
Absolutely.
The roads.
They do the roads.
All construction.
And I know that when they do killings, they just stuff the dead bodies under people's houses when they're building them, stuff like that.
Sure. I mean, if you wanted to find most of the people that went missing in the past, just find the bridges and go to where they're attached to the ground. That's their prime place for hiding bodies, right at the foot of a bridge.
And that's interesting. There was society. That's symbolic too. That bridge building.
Yeah.
Because they had a society in the Middle Ages of bridge builders, and they had like knowledge.
That's why you have a pond.
Yep.
In your neck.
Yep, exactly. I was just about to say that. The ponds, yeah. So it's like one big allegory.
Yep.
Anyways, guys, it's getting on in time, and this guy gets up early.
All right, good.
Yes. Thanks for your time.
Anyway, keep on trucking.